Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Africa24 English. In today's edition of DECRYPTAGE, we are joined by Mr. William Brent, Chief Marketing Officer at Husk Power Systems. He talks about how the Mission 300 initiative comes at a time when Africa really needs to invest in energy solutions with a strong contribution from the private sector. Mr. William Brent, thank you and welcome to Africa24 English. What does Husk Power Systems do?
Husk Power is 16 years old. It was founded in India by a group of Indian entrepreneurs, so entrepreneurs from the global south. We've since expanded to Africa as well. So our largest markets today are in India and Nigeria, and we're looking to expand across sub-Saharan Africa. What does Husk Power do? Husk Power, as I mentioned, is the world's largest minigrid developer. Minigrids are essentially decentralized renewable energy infrastructure. So, you imagine the grid that you see here in Dar es Salaam or any other city in Africa, poles and wires. Electricity is coming to those poles and wires from somewhere. But in rural Africa, where there's still 600 million people living without access to any electricity, the grid is very unlikely to reach those people anytime soon. So mini-grids provide a great opportunity to much more quickly, much more cost effectively electrify those communities. We set up solar power generation plants, we build transmission and distribution infrastructure, and we take a community, usually a rural community, could be peri-urban, from zero electricity one day to 24-hour-a-day electricity the following day. So it's very transformative in terms of the impact it can make. So far, as a company, we've built 400 mini-grids in India and Nigeria. We add about 30 new mini-grids per month, so we're actually now able to scale very rapidly. We're the largest mini-grid developer in India, we're the largest mini-grid developer in Nigeria. And I think the other aspect about Husk that's really interesting is that when we first started, what we learned was, yes, you can supply people with electricity, but if they don't have the means to use that electricity, what good is the power for, right? So we also added in appliance sales and credit financing to our business model so that we can go to our customers, whether it's households or small businesses in the communities, and say, hey, do you want a rice milling machine? Do you want a refrigerator? Do you want a fan? Whatever it is that they need to improve their livelihoods, improve their businesses, become more efficient, they can purchase those appliances from us with credit financing. And what they've been using prior to that has mostly been diesel generation, which is very expensive, it's polluting, it's so loud and noisy. You go into those communities, you can barely hear yourself think because it's so loud there. We go in and we remove all of those diesel generators. People are transitioning from diesel to solar electricity, and the small businesses in those communities, they'll save 30 to 50% on their monthly energy bill by making that switch. So we're getting rid of a lot of diesel, which is really important, and offsetting a lot of carbon emissions. But we're also, more importantly, giving these small businesses and households the means to actually improve their lives, not just the electricity itself.
How long have you been in Africa, and what is your overall assessment of your activities so far?
So Husk Power is a social impact company, right? Our mission is to do away with energy poverty. When we started this company, our founder, Manoj Sinha, and his co-founders, that was the intent. It was back in that time, which was 16 years ago in India, this was also a huge issue. It's improved since then, it's not better, but in Africa it's even a bigger issue. So we came to Tanzania in around 2015. That was our first country in Africa. And then we entered Nigeria in 2020. Nigeria, as the viewers may know, is the largest unelectrified population in the world. 100 million people, 90 to 100 million people, no electricity at all. Many more millions have unreliable electricity. So Nigeria is an amazing test case for what is possible in Africa with private sector companies like Husk Power. In the 4 years that we've been there, we've scaled very rapidly. We've gone from no mini-grids to ending last year, 2024, with 65 mini-grids on the ground. We expect to be able to get to 500, if not 1,000 mini-grids. And what we've learned is that we are making real impact on the ground. I mean, I visit the communities that we serve frequently. We have an office of 250 people on the ground, 100% Nigerian. In India, we're 100% Indian. Anywhere else we go in Africa, it will be 100% of the staff will come from those countries. We're actually hiring and training 90% of our employees. We have 1,200 employees. 90% of them are actually people in the communities that we serve, that we train to do technical services, sales, security. So we're creating jobs, we're creating opportunities in Africa, and the need is there, and the people that we're serving, we feel that impact on a day-to-day basis. You know, we're in these communities for 20 to 25 years. Our mini-grids last that long, right? So we build them, we own them, and we operate them over time. So we're really a part of these communities. We work very closely with the village chiefs, women's groups, youth groups, small businesses, to make sure that they're getting what they need. If there are problems, they have a way of recourse through local committees that we've set up. So, you know, what is clear is that the business case for this is there. We're doing very well as a business. We're scaling very rapidly, but more importantly, the impact that we're making is tangible, right? You go to these places and you feel it. I have many of the customers on WhatsApp. I talk to them on a regular basis. So it's inspiring to us as a company, and I think we've gotten to the point now where we're very comfortable and confident that it's also really making a huge impact on people's lives, beyond just lights and a phone charger, but actually energy that can power that local economy, create jobs, allow businesses that are already there to reinvest in their businesses from the savings, from switching from diesel, to hire more people. So it's a very transformative experience that we've had in Nigeria.
The Mission 300 initiative is very ambitious, and as much as many people are excited about it, some are skeptical about achieving its goals. As a key player in the industry, what are your views?
Mission 300 is a really important signal to governments, to the donors, to other investors, to private sector companies like Husk Power, that says we are all in, right? It's the World Bank, it's the African Development Bank, it's philanthropy, it's national governments that are here for the summit. 10 years ago, when I started working in energy access, you could knock on the door of the World Bank for days, as we did, asking for them to pay more attention to this issue. It was very, very hard to get the attention that we thought this issue deserved. So fast forward 10 years today to Mission 300, that is a huge amount of progress that's been made in terms of recognition on the part of government, on the part of donors, on the part of investors, on the part of that whole ecosystem, that this is a top priority. So just by itself, that in itself is a very important milestone. Now, there are a lot of unanswered questions, right? Governments are critical to our work. We're a regulated industry. If the governments are not our close partners for the journey that we are taking in their country, that's an issue, right? They need to have the political will, they need to have the regulatory and policy frameworks in place. Mobilizing finance. I may have mentioned we've raised $100 million in the end of 2023, which has allowed us to grow very fast. Last year we went from 200 mini-grids to 400 mini-grids. We doubled our portfolio of mini-grids in 1 year. Unprecedented. But that's not even fast enough, right? So capital, access to capital, affordable capital, is also a critical piece to this. And it's still, I think, a little bit unclear where all the money that's been committed is actually going to come from. And is it the right type of money? And is it going to be used effectively? And is it going to be used for the right purposes, right? We have huge ambitions. We want to have 2,500 mini-grids in Africa by the end of the decade. We'll need billions of dollars to do that. But that billions of dollars has to be affordable long-term debt. It has to be equity that isn't expecting purely commercial returns, because we're doing it on an accelerated timeline to help meet these goals, right? So there's more than just a commercial return that investors need to be expecting. It's also the impact that we're making. So I think it's an amazing step forward. It's a large step forward. I think there are a lot of small steps that will follow that will determine how effective it will be. It just began. So Mission 300 is just starting. It's too early to say, but I think the goal, the objective, is a very important one. It's one that we're fully behind. And we stand ready to work with governments, with donors, other investors, to make sure it happens. And I'm very happy to say that the private sector is a central piece of Mission 300. And I think everybody is recognizing that without the involvement of the private sector, none of this will be achieved on the timescale that's required.
Speaking of the private sector, what is really key to achieving the goals of the Mission 300 initiative? And based on your experience, what advice could you give to those who want to venture into this investment in Africa?
Right, so I mean, in terms of the private sector role in Mission 300, how important it is, I think if you look at Nigeria, which we've been in for 4 years, that's a very private-oriented economy, right? They value the private sector. They see the value we can bring, right? Not only in mobilizing finance from whoever it may be to build the projects that we build. That's important because it reduces the amount of money that government then has to spend of its own money because we're mobilizing private sector money. So obviously access to finance is a huge piece of this. And so any company that is looking to get into this needs to make sure that they have a very solid business model that's sustainable over time, it's commercially viable. That's not easy. It takes time. It took us 13 years to get to profitability as a company. And we went through many iterations as a company. We almost died halfway in that journey as a company. We've made a huge pivot to reorient the company. So, I think the business model is absolutely essential, making sure that you have that right, making sure that you have access to international and local finance, strong ongoing engagement and partnership with both national governments and subnational governments. None of what we do, we can do without strong government support. So, I think so. Those are 3 things that I think come to mind about what other private sector companies should be thinking about.
Mr. Williams Brent, thank you for answering Africa's 24 questions. And to our viewers, thank you for watching this program. Stay tuned to Africa 24 English for the best African news in streaming and replay on our website, africa24tv.com, and on all our social networks.